Over to you, James.
Yeah, hi, my name's James. I'm a recovered drug addict.
Hey, James.
How you all doing? All right. Nice to see you all. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it, and it's good to see you. I usually plan exactly what I'm going to say when I come and speak to people, because I've usually got a little bit of like, they'll be saying, come on, I want to talk around step one, I want to talk about this, that and the other, but you know, I find today that I try and be a little bit more intuitive and speak to some people and get an idea of the group that I'm going to be talking to try and sort of feel where, you know, we should be together within this, you know, because I'm no different to you guys, you know. I may be coming in here to talk to you, but I'm just another human being that suffered with addiction, yeah. So I'm a member of Cocaine Anonymous. I was, like yourselves, found myself in an institution like this, and I was absolutely. It's hard to imagine or put into words the state that I was in when I went through those doors of that place. You know, my old ideas had been left behind. I'd consistently, for probably about the last 10 years prior to that, put myself in institutions to escape drug addiction, whether that be the consequences or the physical addiction to substances. So that's what I thought the problem was, is the fact that the problem was when I was in the spree, using. Because it seemed like that's the problem. So I'd remove myself from the problem and I would straighten out, get clean. I'm somebody personally that once I escape the hell of addiction, life seems much better. A lot better. Even if I'm in an institution, it's 100 times better of running, you know, being out there like a lunatic, trying to score every day, manipulation, lying, you know, all that sort of stuff to it. Because it's not me. That's not the real me. But of course, when I'm using, anything goes, yeah, and it's going against my own personal moral compass. And then I remove myself from a situation, and yeah, I feel that, you know, because it's not my natural, it wasn't the way I was brought up. I had a good upbringing. I had a childhood like, we all have different childhoods, you know, and I'd straighten out, I'd feel good, I'm quite a confident person, I'd get on with people, and I was at the point where I said, I'm never going to do that again. I'm never going to pick up heroin, crack, alcohol, cocaine, any substance again, because I started to understand and start to see that it wasn't the 5th, 6th or 7th one that was the problem. It was the first one. That took a bit of experimentation to realise that, though. That wasn't just a sudden profound experience. Oh yes, it's the first one. When I pick up the first one, I can't stop and I'm in a trail of destruction, I can't control it. That took some time, but I did have that realisation. I did realise for me that, you know, when I pick up heroin, for example, and I'm not trying to separate with substances because I've done them all and they all end up in the same place for me. It's not good. But just for example, like if I pick up heroin, I use it once and I use it the next day, and then I know I'm in trouble, but I can't even prevent myself from not continuing in that cycle. And the same goes for cocaine, crack cocaine, and alcohol. Alcohol's a little bit more subtle for me though, because I could potentially, or have done, just got out of an institution, recreated or reassembled a sort of life, you know, got my family back together and they've sort of forgiven me because it's been some time, and I thought I could drink red wine like a gentleman for a period of time. And it seemed to be happening until one day came and I just thought, I like red wine, you know, I do, it's lovely. I also like brandy and coke, I like drugs and alcohol. Yeah, I know what goes really nice with red wine is a bit of cocaine. Marvellous. Yeah, and then before you know it, I'm into red wine and cocaine, and then a bit further on, I'm back into crack cocaine, and then before you know it, I'm doing heroin again, and then back on the methadone scripts. I'm like, how did I get here again? It's happened again. Devastated, frustrated, and just beside myself, because it's not what I wanted. It's not what I want. And it's not the aims I have for my life to be in this, and it's not, you know, my family's prediction for my life at this point. So so I've got enough willpower or enough common sense to say, I'm in the problem, I need to remove myself from that problem again. And of course, repeat the cycle. I'm back in the situation. I feel great again, get back out and over. At some point, I don't know when that's going to be, and it's not dependent on whether I was in a good mood or a bad mood, or how I was feeling, or what things I'd learned. All that would be pushed aside and I'd forget. And I'd pick up that first one again. And I'm in it again. So humiliating, so baffling, so demoralising. It was absolutely, devastating. We're talking about, for me personally, 20 years of horrendous addiction. I was 36 when I came into recovery. And I only ended up here as a byproduct of the universe pushing me every single way but recovery. And then I found myself not here, but an environment like this. And, I was very, very underweight. A lot of strange characteristics that I picked up along the way. And because of all the institutions and environments and street level stuff, and then, and don't get me wrong, within different parts of all these sprees and getting off, I was quite capable. I'd got jobs, so 1 minute I could be working in a financial institution, but slowly but surely, I just got lower and lower and lower and lower, and then I was just not in a position where I could work, and being tied down to drug services, chemists, probations, all the external stuff that can come, or not necessarily doesn't have to come, with that. And I met a couple of guys from 12-Step Fellowship, Cocaine Anonymous it so happened to be, and really identified with what they were talking about, actually, and they were talking about relapse, and the fact is the likelihood that I'm going to relapse again. Because for me as well, I'd always look forward, look forward, things are going to be great. Yeah, I've read some great books, I've done a bit of working out, and my hair looks good, and I'm ready to go. Not ever understanding that I had something that was wrong with my mind. Not all of my thinking, because I can assert my thinking and willpower in other areas of my life and be quite bloody good at certain things. But around this relapse thing, that I couldn't bring into my consciousness or to my memory with sufficient force to prevent me from picking up that first one. Yeah? Like amnesia. Because the reality is, when I pick up the first one, I know I can't stop, and it's horrendous. It takes me, I don't even know what the consequences are going to be. Yet for some reason, before that first one, I'd forget that. Amnesia, or an attack of alcoholism, as I like to call it, and I'd pick up the first one, and I'm gone again. So when somebody was looking at this information and presenting it to me, I was like, fuck. Damn. Because I was always looking forward, he kind of politely said, turn round, stop looking forward, look, what's your experience, James? And my experience was swearing off, meaning it, as we call losing. I'd lost the power of choice. Because I chose to use for years, don't get me wrong, there was years of enjoyment with drugs and alcohol, just like any other person in this world that goes out and enjoys drugs and alcohol. But there was a point where I crossed the line and I lost the power of choice, and I was choosing not to do it, yet I was still doing it again. And so they talk about an illness of mind and body. So kind of in layman's terms, I've got a mind that a body that once it starts, it can't stop. That makes sense to me. That's my experience. Or basically, when you use, do the wheels fall off? Absolutely. Yeah, you've got a mind that forgets that the wheels fall off after a period of time when you rebuild yourself. And interesting. Because I was quite good at other things in my life, yet with this relapse thing, I couldn't prevent it from happening. And you have to be at a certain point and position to accept that information, because we are human beings that we think we've got solutions to things, and we think we can solve this problem by ourselves. Yeah, we're determined. It's human nature, it's common sense. But actually I could see that I couldn't prevent this from happening again. And there was nothing that I could do to prevent it from happening again, because it was something that happened within a little part of my mind that malfunctioned. And I was just really happy to meet a couple of really kind people that were really nice, that they were talking about the same things that I'm talking about now, but I would have never known that they'd been drug addicts. Ever. Yeah? They displayed a whole different personality and characteristics. They weren't childish. They weren't walking around thinking that they were still Tony Montana. Yeah, they weren't displaying these things that I didn't like anymore because I'd been in it for so long. And it was just probably a reflection. When I saw guys like that, it was like a reflection of my old self, and I found it really uncomfortable because it was embarrassing that I was 36 walking around in a tracksuit still. Yeah, it's not. I have no offence against tracksuits. I wear a tracksuit home, but what I'm saying is, that wasn't really how I was raised and how I was brought up. I'd get back from prison. Having been raised really well, privately educated and stuff, and I'd come back with a tracksuit on, around my, lower down so you could see my boxer shorts. This is a side characteristic, but it's just very embarrassing to see that that's how I lived and what I did. And I'd be like, yeah, you're right, Mum, safe. What's happened to you, James? I paid for your education, now you're talking like this, what's happened? I was a bit deluded, So when I met these guys, there was something about them, their deportment, their way of conducting themselves and stuff. It was just really like, they were serious about what they were talking about, and they weren't fluffing things up for me. They weren't necessarily going, "You're doing really well, James. You look great. You put on some weight." Yeah? There was enough people doing that, massaging my ego. But actually, it's not what I really needed to hear. It's nice. You're looking great. But at the same time, it was taken away from the fact that really I had still an illness in my mind, that I had nothing that I could do. So they didn't want to build up a false sense of security. And they saw that I was awake to what they were talking about. And they hit me with some truth. And I was ready for that truth. And I could see that I had a hopeless condition. Because a lot of people were talking about hope. But I'd been hopeful before, really hopeful. This time it's going to be different. Yeah, it wasn't. And they were saying this time it's not going to be different. It's going to be the same. We have a way out for you. It's the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. The fellowship is Cocaine Anonymous, which just is slightly misleading because it sounds like it's just cocaine, but it's not. It's all mind-altering substances. It was just formulated where some guys that were together, I think it was in 82, 83, they wanted to use the literature from Alcoholics Anonymous, which was the original 12-step program. Any subsequent stuff that's come from the big book is different. Yeah, I identify with alcoholism within the big book. That's just me. Yeah, I didn't identify with relapsing on feelings. Yeah, because it didn't matter what I was feeling, and it actually didn't make sense that I was having a bad day, so I'll relapse and I'll see you in 3 years. That didn't make sense to me. And it also showed that I relapsed when I was happy. So if I relapse when I'm happy, that's a feeling. And I relapse when I'm unhappy, and that's a feeling. What am I supposed to do? Not feel? Or just stay in the middle? Well, that's bloody impossible. And then, so if I'm in a feeling, that means I'm going to relapse? That's a life living in fear. So they were saying this condition that you can't prevent relapse. There's nothing I can do, hence the 12 steps. We turn our life and the will over to the care of God, as you understand God. But ultimately it's about a spiritual experience as a result of working these 12 steps. Some people have a problem with the word God. That's great, that's cool, because there's some chapters within this book and we can look at it and talk about it. I didn't particularly, at the point of the juncture that I stumbled across this. But maybe if you'd have mentioned this to me 10 years ago, I'd have given God the big old finger. Yeah, because I thought I was God. So actually it was about not necessarily believing in God so much, about actually I need to stop thinking I am God. Quit playing God, because I was trying to control everything. Always a master manipulator. And I got into this book, and my sponsor, just to say, not for any reason that it's my responsibility or anything to do with me that I'm still here, but I've not relapsed for coming up to about 5.5 years. Yeah, I don't take credit for that. Yeah, I don't even understand how that's happened. I do not understand. It's nothing to do with me. I've simply taken some direction, taken the lead from another recovered drug addict, and engaged in this process. And There was something about reading about Bill Wilson, the founder of Alcoholics Anonymous, and Dr. Bob, the co-founders of the 12-step, movement. I mean, it's profound. It's profound. We're still, in 2019, and this was formulated in what this book came out in 1939. Yet we're in a professional institution. Yet the professional still sends you to us. Yeah? If you want that. There's other options out there, of course. It's not the only way. There's loads of different ways. I'm not here to sell this to you either. Yeah? In fact, I almost hope that you don't identify with what I'm talking about, because if you do identify, you're in trouble. If you don't, you might just be okay. Or you might be okay anyway. Yeah? And what I did is I just kind of... I don't even know how it came about. All my focus and something about this way of life and my sponsor and some people within my fellowship, it just revolutionised. I went through this work quick. I went through the 12 steps and I took the steps. I didn't work the steps. Each step, what does this mean? I wanted to know about it. I took it in and I got through this work quick, probably in about 4 weeks. That doesn't mean that there was not a lifetime of amends to make within step 9. It didn't mean there's not a lifetime in prayer and meditation. But ultimately, this whole work was about putting me in a position to help somebody else. That's it. So the 12 steps don't address relapse. What they do is they remove you from being selfish, because I was very selfish and very self-centered. Even in recovery, I thought it was about me at the beginning. Even when I was in treatment, I thought it was about me. Someone said, James, you're still a self-centered son of a bitch. What are you on about? Look at all the people that you've hurt and harmed. It's not about you anymore. Start thinking about them. So in that moment there, I was like, He hit me with the truth, but I kind of liked that truth. He loved me enough to tell me the truth. As the telephone queue went down to people that were ringing home asking Mum for stuff still. He goes, James, come here a sec. How old are you? 36. Then he goes, don't you think it's time you stopped asking your mum for things? And it just hit me. Yeah. If I haven't got it, I'll go without. And it was then that I decided I need to grow up. Stop being a bloody baby. Stop running to mum all the time. And about 6 months later, I'd not asked my mum for anything for about 4 or 5 months, and called her up. We had a fractious relationship, I'm the only son, so it was like I was the black sheep of the family, but I was the only sheep. So they kept me from a distance, but still checked that I was doing okay. She says, are you all right, James? I said, yeah, why? She goes, because you've not asked for anything in months. You sure you're okay? I said, I'm cool, Mum. I don't need anything. I love you. See you later. And, as a result of this, I've just had such a profound... I'm not a different person. I'm just a different version of myself. Yeah, the person I always was, the happy, light-hearted, go-lucky kind of person, until addiction kind of destroyed and pulled all that away from me. And the harms when I was in addiction, actually, I thought was the worst thing, but actually it wasn't. It was when I built my family's hopes up again, every time, and then I pulled it down again. And it was their heartbreak and that devastation. Because when I was in it, or I was in an institution, they were actually quite pleased. Because they knew where I was, if I was in an institution. Or there was actually a time when my mum, she told me this when I sat down and I made amends to her and went through the process. And she said, how are we doing for time? She said, I prayed for the day that they phoned and said you were dead, James. Now, for a mother, my mum's lovely, really lovely. So don't mean that she just made that decision after 2 weeks, yeah. That was after 20 years of devastation and being part enabler, because of the things that we say, and not knowing what to do. And that's where she was at the end. I just wanted a phone call to say that you were dead so I could sleep at night and put you to rest, because I can't do it anymore. Fortunately, I'm not dead, and she sleeps every night really well now, really well. In fact, she's got so young, you know, and she doesn't need to contact me or say, how am I doing? It's more like the other way. It was her birthday yesterday, you know, how you doing, Mum? She got a card. Nice, you know, it's the little things, yeah. And this experience for me was so profound, this, from being so selfish to realising that I've got some purpose, because I thought I'd destroyed and ruined my life, and all the experiences I had were wasted. And actually, my good friend from Cocaine Anonymous at this time, kind of the same kind of time we're at now, that I was in my journey. Have you ever thought, James, that all those experiences that you've had and all that darkness can benefit somebody else? And I think at the time I went, fucking hell. It was a light bulb moment. Because I was like, it's not a waste. I can use this for something useful and purposeful. And I actually even knew that it was the only way that this could have gone for me. It was like, have that life, go through this, and now you're ready for sponsorship as a result of getting through this. And I can tell you what my life is like today. I'm not really into all that self-seeking sort of stuff. It makes me uncomfortable because, like, the main thing is I've stopped relapsing and I live a normal life. Very relaxed, very calm, very quiet, stable, consistent. I've got integrity. Some people like me. Some people don't. That's cool. I'm very truthful within my fellowship of Cocaine Anonymous. I don't fluff this up. I'm to the point because my experience is, you may hear some stuff today. I'm not here to change your minds today, and it may be something that I say today that you might relapse and you'll remember it 3 years down the line. I don't want you to do that. I'm not saying, but I'm just saying that this is a process, isn't it? For me, I wasn't working when I came into recovery, but some of you may be. So for me to say that I've got a job now and I'm stable within that, but yet you might be well, actually you're in here, aren't you? So you've had to have some time off work?
I've got a job, but I'm off sick.
Same difference. Do you know what I mean? It just so happened I had a lot of sick, so they couldn't let me go. So yeah, my life is dedicated to helping other drug addicts. That's it. As a byproduct of helping other drug addicts, yes, I've resurrected my own life. Yeah, I live on my own. It's really nice. I like my own company, which is pretty amazing, you know, because I always wanted to be the centre of attention, always be the life and soul. Or if I was on my own, I'd find it really sort of difficult because my mind was really fast, you know. And I've got a job. I'm a productive member of the community. I pay all my bills on time. I'm a father. I've not seen my daughter for 7 years as a result of drug addiction. And now I've been a consistent father to her for maybe coming up to 3 years. Although she's now at the age of 12, she's a grown woman. She doesn't really want to know her dad too much, but that's okay. I'm here when she needs me. I'm going to read just one thing quickly, and then I'll leave it there. This is in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous, and it was about one of the guys that had sought escape from this, what I suffer from. So a certain American businessman had ability, good sense and high character. For years he had floundered from one sanitarium to another. He had consulted the best known American psychiatrists. Then he had gone to Europe, placing himself in the care of celebrated physician, the psychiatrist Dr. Jung, who prescribed for him. Though experience had made him sceptical, he finished his treatment with unusual confidence. His physical and mental condition were unusually good. Above all, he believed he had acquired such profound knowledge of the inner workings of his mind and its hidden springs that relapse was unthinkable. Nevertheless, he was drunk in short time. More baffling still, he could give himself no satisfactory explanation for his fall. I'll leave it there.
Thanks, James.